Far away from Earth, beyond the stars humans could see, the alien world Threxel 9 orbited quietly around a red sun. It was a peaceful planet. Its people, the Thrinai, were wise and gentle, tall, glowing beings with soft voices and a deep respect. For life, they had never fought a war. They didn't even have weapons, but one day their world began to die. The core beneath Threxel 9, a living crystal energy called the Heartlight, started to flicker. Cities dimmed. Power failed. Their floating homes crashed to the ground. No Thrinai scientists could fix it. So the council made a decision. Send the call, said High Speaker Lurian. Ask for help, but it wasn't a call for war. It was a simple distress signal, coded and clean, meant only for peaceful civilizations. The message said, non-military assistance requested, scientific aid needed, energy collapse imminent. They thought it was safe. They didn't know who else was listening. For days, the skies above Threxel 9 remained empty. The Thrinai waited. Every hour, more energy was lost. Even the youngest could feel it. A strange coldness in the ground. And then, something appeared. The Thrinai space watchers picked up something on their deep sky sensors. First, a small dot. Then many, dozens of ships. Large, fast, silent. Not Thrinai, not any known ally. No contact. No greeting. Just slow, steady movement approaching Threxel 9 from above. Who are they? Asked Counselor Surya. Why don't they respond? No answer came. The Thrinai had never seen ships like these. Black steel, sharp edges, glowing with artificial lights. Machines hovered in orbit, scanning every inch of the planet with quiet precision. Drones flew into the upper atmosphere, unmanned and fast. One drone landed outside the Thrinai capital. It didn't speak. It just unfolded ... and watched. We greet them? Someone asked. No, said Lurian. Wait, let them speak first. Finally, after 2 long days of silence, a voice echoed across every device's screen. An airwave. It was a human voice, clear, calm, and very, very serious. This is Captain Elias Ward of the United Earth Interstellar Command. We received your signal. We came ready. The Thrinai gathered, stunned. These beings, these humans, were nothing like the soft-spoken visitors from past ages. They looked like warriors. Their uniforms were sharp, their eyes cold, their machines powerful. Your signal was open, Ward continued. Open. It echoed across multiple sectors. Others heard it too. We're not the only ones coming. That's when the Thrinai realized. They had made a mistake. In orbit, the human fleet was not still. While one ship handled communications, others set up defense grids and stealth satellites. They deployed small combat drones. Some ships even began scanning below the surface of Rex AL-9. The Thrinai asked for scientists. They got a military task force. High Speaker Lurian requested a meeting. Captain Ward agreed. When they met face to face, the differences were clear. The Thrinai's long glowing robes and peaceful tones clashed with the humans' armored suits. And watchful stares? Lurian asked softly. Why are you armed? Did not call for war, Ward replied without emotion. You didn't. But that doesn't mean war isn't coming. He explained what Earth had learned long ago. Every signal is a risk. Every open message can attract predators, and the galaxy was full of dangerous things. Meanwhile, in a distant system, far beyond human space, something old stirred in the dark. Something that heard the Thrinai's signal. Something that remembered. This planet, and it was already on its way back on Threxel 9. The human AI systems began to detect strange readings from the planet's crust. Energy distortions, ancient tunnels, sealed chambers buried miles below. Dr. Naomi Reeves, Earth's chief exoscientist, ran the data. Her conclusion sent a chill through the human command ship. There's something under the planet, and it's waking up. Ward made his next move. Fast. Deploy ground units. Prepare automated turrets. No more waiting. The Thrinai panicked. This is not your war, shouted Counselor Surya. You are turning our world into a battlefield. Ward didn't blink. No, we're keeping it from becoming one, but the truth was, it might already be too late. That night, in a quiet valley just outside the capital, a Threnai farmer watched the sky. A strange cloud formed above a distant mountain. It glowed red for a moment, and then vanished. A low hum began to rise from the ground beneath. He stepped back. The earth split, and something with black eyes crawled out. Humanity had come prepared, but the enemy was already here. The ships hung in orbit like silent watchers. No music, no banners, no greetings, just steel, light, and shadows. The humans didn't speak again after their first message. They only moved with purpose. From the surface of Threxel 9, the Threnai watched with nervous hearts. These newcomers humans were unlike any species they had ever met. Other civilizations sent gifts, art, or soft words. But the humans sent drones, guards, and warning satellites. To the Threnai, it felt like a quiet invasion. Inside the Human Command Vessel, UEC, Vanguard, Captain Elias Ward stood in front of a 3D map of Threxel 9. The planet rotated slowly under his cold gaze. "Anything new?" he asked. Dr. Naomi Reeves answered, eyes locked on her tablet. "Yes, more energy. Spikes underground. The signals we found on Yoriswelv." Ward frowned. "The parasite?" Naomi nodded. "The same. Just ... sleeping for now." Ward turned to his crew. "Then we're not just here to help. We're here to stop another outbreak." Meanwhile, the Threnai Council held an emergency meeting. "They're building something in orbit," said one elder. "Towers, weapons. They do not trust us," said another. "Perhaps they fear us." High Speaker Lurian raised a hand. "No, they fear what's beneath us. And now, so do I." They decided to speak to Ward again. This time, not with ceremony, but with truth. At the edge of the human forward camp, a meeting was arranged. This time, Kale, a young Threnai scientist, went with Lurian. Kale didn't trust the humans, but he respected their intelligence. Captain Ward met them with a small team of soldiers behind him, no weapons drawn but clearly visible. Kale spoke first. "You don't speak much, you scan, you build." "You watch?" Ward nodded. "That's right." Kale narrowed his eyes. "What are you watching for?" Ward pointed to the ground. "Them." He tapped his wrist device. A projection appeared, a video from one of the drones. The image showed a creature, black and wet, crawling through an underground tunnel. It had no eyes, just claws, and hundreds of teeth. Lurian gasped. "That's not Threnai." "No," Ward said coldly. "That's the Skrull." The room fell quiet. Naomi stepped forward. "The Skrull are ancient. They live underground, feed on energy, and infect anything warm." "We thought we wiped them out a century ago," Kale asked. "Why? Didn't they wake before?" "Because your world has been quiet," Naomi said, "until your core started breaking down, until your signal went out." Lurian realized it too late. Their peaceful call for help had unlocked a cage. Later that night, humans began landing heavy units. Mobile bases, pulse turrets, sensor towers. The Threnai watched as forests were cleared, rocks were scanned, machines dug into the ground. The city lights of the Threnai began to dim further, from deep below. More power was being pulled and stolen. Then the first scream. Scout team, exploring an ancient underground chamber, vanished without warning. A camera sent one final frame before the feed went dark. A hallway lined with black slime, and something moving fast. The human response was instant. Ward ordered, "Lockdown Zone 3. Activate countermeasures." Naomi whispered to herself, "It's starting." On the edge of the dig site, Kale stood with his scanner in hand. His face was pale. "The readings are spreading." "How fast?" Lurian asked. Kale didn't answer. Didn't need to. In the sky above, a new satellite came online. It blinked red. Movement confirmed. Captain Ward's voice echoed across the open comms to all units. "This is not a drill. The veil is breaking. Prepare for contact." But the Threnai still didn't understand. Not fully. They thought humans had come too strong, too aggressive, too cold. But now they saw it clearly. The humans didn't come armed because they wanted war. They came armed because war was already here. Threxel 9 was no longer a world of peace. Beneath its soft skies and floating crystal towers, something ancient had started to awaken. What the Threnai once called sacred ground was now cracking, glowing, and humming with strange energy. Human. Tunnels opening without cause. But even the machines couldn't explain what was happening fast enough. One moment, everything was calm, and the next, entire valleys went dark. Trees wilted. Then, deep from the silence, came a sound that no Threnai had ever heard. A low, vibrating growl. Not mechanical, not natural, but something alive. And hungry. At the edge of Zone 3, a joint patrol team was the first to see them. Or, rather, to see the absence of them. These creatures, the Skrull, didn't walk or fly. They didn't roar or charge like beasts. Instead, they melted into the dark. Their bodies were like living smoke wrapped around bones of metal and ancient hunger. They moved between shadows like water, cold and silent. A soldier named Cooper was the first to fall. One blink, he was there, flashlight sweeping the rocks. The next, gone. No scream, just his rifle hitting the dirt. Surveillance drones caught blurry footage, tall, spiked figures climbing from the walls, merging into stone, and then reappearing behind the team. The Threnai, untrained for battle, froze in panic, but the humans moved fast. Fire teams switched to thermal vision. Drones dropped flares. Auto turrets locked in. Screeches echoed off the metal. In the chaos, one Threnai warrior named Kale activated a flare bomb and bought them all 10 precious seconds to escape. That's when the humans realized something terrifying. These were not just wild creatures. They were coordinated, intelligent, waiting, watching. Back at the command base, Captain Ward stared at the replay from Kale's helmet cam. His face was pale but not surprised. Dr. Naomi Reeves sat beside him, whispering calculations to herself, sweat rolling down her face. "They've been here for centuries," she said. Waiting for the right energy signal to wake up, Lurian stood across from them, trembling. "Called them," the high speaker said. Our cry for help, we open the door. Ward didn't look away from the screen, and now we close it. With fire, the next orders were clear. Lockdown protocols, orbital weapons on standby, ground teams armed with plasma. The humans were no longer just here to help. They were now the front line of defense, not just for Threxel 9, but for every nearby system that could be next. And as the night deepened and the stars vanished behind growing black clouds, Kale looked out across the planet and whispered what everyone feared. They're already inside. The morning after the attack, the Threnai capital was no longer silent. Smoke rose from nearby hills. The ground still shook beneath the soft stone streets. In the skies above, human drones circled like metal hawks, scanning, tracking, watching for movement below. Inside the command dome, a heated argument had begun. Lurian and Kale faced Captain Elias Ward across a digital war map glowing with red threat signals. "This is not your planet," Lurian said firmly. Ward didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He called for help. He said, "This is help." "Didn't know what kind of help you needed?" Kale's voice cracked with emotion. "We didn't ask for an army." Ward turned toward the screen, pointing at the growing red zone underground. "And we didn't ask to find an apex predator crawling beneath your soil. But here we are. They're a species designed for energy absorption. They don't eat plants. They don't drink water. They consume power from cities, ships, even living beings. You can't reason. With them, you can't talk peace. You can only kill them, or they kill you." The Threnai Council was silent. They had no military. Their ancestors believed violence was a last resort. But laws written in peace often crumble in war. Kale clenched his fists. "So what's your plan? Burn our world just to protect it?" Ward turned back, eyes sharp. "No, We hold the line. We defend. But if your planet burns, it won't be because of us. It'll be because you refuse to accept the truth in time." He tapped the screen again. Logic is, tactics are. Firepower is. Outside, human engineers continued setting up plasma turrets along the hills. The Threnai watched all of it with fear, but also with something new. Understanding, because just hours ago, a second attack had hit a nearby town. Dozens of Threnai were lost in minutes. No screams, no signs, just darkness and silence. And yet, the town next to it, protected by a single human defense drone, survived without a scratch. That's when Kale began to see it clearly. The humans weren't trying to control them. They were trying to prepare them. They don't enjoy war, Kale whispered to Lorien that night. And that's why they're still alive. As the sun set behind a smoky sky and the earth rumbled once more, Lorien looked to the stars, her voice soft and filled with worry. "We thought we were calling for peace, but maybe we're calling for warriors." The night sky over Threxel-9 was blacker than ever. Clouds covered the stars, and a cold wind whispered through the broken towers of the capital city. Below, the ground trembled like a warning drumbeat, shaking loose dust and old memories. Humans and Threnai stood side by side in uneasy silence, preparing for the battle that everyone knew was coming. Captain Elias Ward moved along the front lines, his sharp eyes scanning every shadow, every crack in the walls. Soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers calibrated the plasma turrets, and medics set up triage stations. Despite all the preparations, tension hung heavy like a thick fog. No one knew what the enemy would do next, or how many of them there were. But everyone felt it. This night would be different. Suddenly, sensors lit up across the command ship. "Contact! Multiple targets approaching." Naomi Reeves shouted, pointing to the screen where tiny red blips moved faster than anything before. From the tunnels below, the scrawl surged upward in terrifying waves, creatures made of shadow and teeth, with bodies that could slip through the smallest cracks. They struck silently, tearing through defenses before alarms even sounded. First wave crashed into the human lines like a dark storm. Soldiers opened fire, beams of plasma cutting through the night, but the scrawl didn't falter. They were fast, relentless, and they knew the terrain better than anyone. Kale, armed now with a heavy rifle borrowed from the humans, fought alongside a group of soldiers in the narrow tunnels under the city. The air was thick with smoke and fear. Every step felt like a race against death. The screams of fallen comrades mixed with the cold clatter of gunfire, echoing through the underground chambers. Meanwhile, on the surface, Captain Ward directed the battle from the command ship, issuing orders with calm precision. Deploy reinforcements to Sector Delta. Activate orbital lasers. The sky above roared as giant beams of light cut through the darkness, striking the scrawl where they gathered. The ground shook with the power of explosions, and the air was thick with ash. But even with the human fleet's firepower, the enemy's numbers seemed endless. The scrawl came in waves, creeping, clawing, and invading every tunnel, every street. At one point, a massive scrawl beast, larger than a Threnai warrior, burst through a barricade, forcing the defenders back with raw power. Yet despite the overwhelming odds, the combined forces of humans and Threnai held the line. Kale, breathing hard and covered in dirt, glanced up at the burning sky and knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. The battle had dragged on for hours, but it felt like days. Darkness swallowed the once bright skies over Threxel-9, hiding the war in shadows deeper than anyone could see. Fires burned unchecked in the forests and cities, sending thick smoke into the air. The humans and Threnai fought side by side, but exhaustion weighed heavily on every soldier's shoulders. Captain Ward's voice crackled through the coms, steady but tired. "Hold your positions. Don't let them break through." But even as he spoke, the scrawl were relentless, slipping past defenses in ways no one expected. Some disappeared into the ground, only to reappear behind the lines. Others moved through walls as if they were nothing but mist. The old world was dying. The Threnai's belief in peace felt fragile, almost like a memory of a dream fading. In the harsh light of reality, deep inside the tunnels, Kale stumbled over broken rubble and fallen comrades. His weapon was hot from constant firing. Around him, the Skrull swarmed like a living storm, attacking from every side. His heart pounded. In his chest, as he ducked a sharp claw, barely avoiding a strike that could have ended him. Suddenly, a blinding flash lit the tunnel, an emergency flare. The humans had arrived just in time, dropping explosives that sent a thunderous roar through the cave. The Skrull shrieked and scattered, but Kale knew it was temporary. They would regroup. They always did. Above ground, the Thrinai watched as their city burned. Buildings crumbled under heavy bombardment. The old alliances were tested by fear and loss, but the human soldiers held steady, using every tactic, every weapon they had. It was a war not just for survival, but for the very soul of Rexal-9. As the first light of dawn crept through, the smoke and eerie silence fell. The battlefield was scarred and quiet, but no one dared to celebrate. Captain Ward stood on the command deck, staring out at the ruined horizon. "We bought time," he said quietly, "but this war is far from over." Naomi approached, her eyes tired but determined. The Skrull aren't just attacking the surface. They're going deeper toward the planet's core. If they reach it, the energy burst could destroy everything. Lurian joined them, her voice steady despite the chaos around. "Then we must stop them. Together." For the first time since the war began, a fragile hope flickered. But even in that hope was the cold truth. The real battle was still waiting in the dark. The battle lines on Threxel-9 had been pushed to the breaking point. The Skrull's relentless waves had torn through ancient forests and shattered cities, but now something was changing. Captain Ward stood beside Dr. Naomi Reeves in the war. Rooms studying new data flooding in from sensor arrays deep underground. "They're vulnerable," Naomi said, pointing at a cluster of readings. "The Skrull rely on a network, a kind of hive mind. If we can disrupt their connection, we might break their coordination." Ward nodded, his jaw tight. "We'll need to strike at their heart deep in the tunnels. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Lurian, watching the humans plan with sharp eyes, stepped forward. "We know the tunnels better than anyone. We will guide you." The uneasy alliance, forged in fear and desperation, had reached a new level of trust. For the first time, hope was not just a dream, it was a plan. Meanwhile, Kale prepared with a small strike team to descend into the twisting underground labyrinth. Their goal was clear but deadly: find the Skrull's core and destroy it before they could launch another devastating attack on the surface. As they moved through narrow passageways, the air thickened with the smell of damp earth and something darker, decay, and menace. The shadows seemed to move with them, whispering threats in a language only fear could understand. Kale's pulse quickened with every step. They were alone in the dark, hunted by creatures born of nightmare. But armed with plasma rifles and Thrinai energy shields, they pushed forward, breaking through layers of Skrull defenses with quiet determination. Every moment was a fight for survival, but the team moved with purpose. They were not just soldiers, they were the last hope for a dying world, back on the surface. Captain Ward coordinated orbital strikes, calling down precise laser fire to cut off enemy reinforcements and secure safe zones for retreat if needed. The Thrinai rallied behind their new allies, erecting barriers and protecting civilians. As the strike team neared the Skrull hive, explosions rocked the tunnels. The hive mind fought back fiercely, sending monstrous guardians to block their path. Kale and his team faced horrors that tested every ounce of courage and skill. But with each step closer, they grew stronger, fueled by the desperate hope of saving their home. Then, finally, in the deepest chamber, they found it, the pulsating core of the Skrull network, a dark mass of energy and shadow. Kale raised his rifle, ready to fire the charge that could end this nightmare. In that tense moment, he whispered, to himself, "For Threxel-9. For humanity. This ends now." The final battle had come. Deep beneath Threxel-9, Kale and his team stood before the Skrull core, a pulsing, dark energy that seemed alive and hungry. The air crackled with danger. Every second was precious. Kale's fingers tightened on his plasma rifle as he waited for the signal from the surface. Above them, Captain Ward's fleet prepared for the ultimate strike, their weapons ready to fire in perfect sync. The Thrinae humans held their breath. If this attack failed, their world would fall into shadow forever. But if it succeeded, they could finally end the terror. Kale glanced at his comrades, tired, scared, but determined. "Let's finish this," he whispered. Together, they set the explosive charge on the core, their hearts pounding as they raced to escape the collapsing tunnels. Outside, the sky roared with fire as the human fleet unleashed everything they had. Laser beams streaked across the heavens, hitting enemy nests and cutting off reinforcements. Ground forces pushed back the Skrull, forcing them into retreat. The Thrinae, once peaceful and unsure, now fought with fierce courage, inspired by the humans who refused to give up. But the Skrull were desperate, their dark shadows rising in one last furious wave. The planet shook, buildings trembled. It felt like the world itself was fighting for survival. In that moment, every soldier, every pilot, every fighter knew. They were part of something greater, a battle for hope, for life, and for the future of all species. Just as the Skrull surged toward victory, a massive explosion shook the core of the planet. Kale's team burst from the tunnels, barely alive but triumphant. The dark energy faded, and the Skrull began to lose their strength, retreating into the shadows from which they came. Captain Ward's voice crackled over the comms. "Mission accomplished. The threat is neutralized." Relief washed over the battered defenders, but the cost was clear. Cities were in ruins. Lives were lost. The alliance between humans and Thrinae was forged in fire and blood. Yet as dawn broke over the scorched horizon, Lurian spoke for all her people. "We called for help, and we found warriors." Galaxy was watching now, and the story of Threxel 9 was just the beginning.